Have you ever witnessed someone getting corrected in public and their entire body shuts down? I mean, everything. Body language changes, their posture changes, rolling of the eyes, and then everyone in the room, if you look around, is quiet. Super awkward. And what you just witnessed, though, is not someone being sensitive. It's actually biological. Our brains treat correction in public like it's a threat. No one likes it. And how we respond in that moment says everything about our character, our ability to lead, how we grow, and our power to influence others. Let's get into it, fam. Welcome back to another episode of Helpers High by me, Tiffany. Courage to have the conversation. That's where we are, guys. People say that they want honesty. I love that, right? They come into my office, it's one on one time, and they're like, I just want somebody to be honest with me. And it sounds good. And it truly is something that we should actually all be in search of, right? You don't want people just sometimes sugarcoating things for their own benefit or even your benefit. You want sometimes to be told what it is exactly holding you back, what can get you to the next level, all of those things. But most of the time, the truth is when people say those words, I want someone to be honest, what they really want is validation. They want confirmation that the way that they've been already doing it is the right way and other people are wrong. The question is, of course, why, if you approach someone saying that you wanted honest feedback, why aren't you actually getting it? Why haven't you been getting it? What's stopping people from actually telling you what you can do better? Again, not in public, definitely in private. In the one on ones where you came to me and asked me a question, why is that such a hesitant response for you to be honest? I'll tell you what it is. And I know from experience. If your reaction to feedback signals panic, shame, disappointment, defensiveness, people will stop being honest with you. That's just how it works. There's a ton of people who don't like that awkward feeling that you put them in when they are honest with you. So instead, they're choosing to not share it. Go out there, make a fool of yourself. What do I care? And that's the last thing that you want, especially from folks that are in your corner that you can actually depend on in everything else except telling you the truth about your personality, your attitude, or just your demeanor. And it really isn't about who you are in that moment all the time, it's what it comes across as. And that's truly what you want people to be able to be comfortably able to share with you. Now, without that, you're not going to be able to grow. That's just it. Relationships are going to get fuzzy at best, where they start breaking off. Your friend circle begins to shrink. And then again, no one wants that uncomfortable conversation with letting you know all of the things that you need to fix as an adult. You're grown, they're not interested in doing that. Now, where this becomes a true problem is avoiding the hard conversations does not make the problem go away. It doesn't. It just makes the problem not yours anymore. You passed it off to someone else, and then it festers and lives in another area, place, or in other people. Eventually, everybody else has to deal with it. So, again, clean conscience for you. You've ridded it, it's gone out of your life, but somebody else now is going, what the heck? But here's what I know, some leaders will absolutely avoid tough conversations. They want harmony, is what they believe. They want everybody to get along, hold hands, and sing, for goodness sake. And sometimes that harmony matters more than actually giving good results, changing somebody, setting somebody on the right course. There are going to be people who take feedback personally, and they do respond defensively. And it triggers avoidance in other people, as we mentioned, right? But sometimes those people also avoid conflict by just going around it. The challenge, however, with this concept of people becoming defensive is sometimes just something that you kind of thought would happen in your mind. So let me be very clear in examples as well. You saw a behavior in someone that you didn't quite like. There was just something about a moment that you didn't feel good. You wish you could approach them, but you're scared, for example, of their reaction. And not scared like, ooh, they're going to beat you, but scared like it's going to be a whole conversation. You don't really want to talk to them. You don't really have anything vested in them anyway. So you just want the moment to pass. They go on with their life. You go on with yours. And that could be good if your circles don't intertwine, right? If it's somebody that you're meeting at the airport while getting on a flight. But if this is in your friendship circle, at your job, at your PTA meetings that you attend every Thursday, or wherever it is that you go often, it's actually quite dangerous. Because what happens, honestly, very often is that you yourself did not quite get over it. You saw the behavior, you didn't address it directly with the person. Instead, you chose to tell that story multiple times to other people who you now, of course, consider to be more of your friends, people who would understand, people who will agree that what you saw does not sit well. So that story then gets its own life. It's told from person to person that that's just the way XYZ is. Because of that, it becomes what we like to call perception feedback. All right. So you perceived how the person would react in that moment. You chose not to tell them. And then you told five other people who then told five more people. And now that person has some type of reputation that they weren't even aware of. Hmm. By the time the truth finally shows up, or the conversation is had, to say the least, the perception has traveled so far, it has miles and can get flights for free. All right, it's not that. But the cost of avoiding the direct conversation actually is more expensive than if you just had the conversation. That's where I was trying to get to with that. Let me give you an actual example of something that happened to me that kind of aligns with this. There was a time where I was presenting to a group, and it was me and a peer. And they knew the project as well as I did, maybe better at parts, either way. So I presented my part, and the partner at that point, which I did not know, felt like I could have been more detailed. I could have given more to the group so that they were as engaged or aware or familiar or any of it. But he didn't say anything to me in that moment. We left there. The group felt that they got all the information because they didn't know what they didn't know, right? Usually. And that partner of mine went around to share, Tiffany did not give all the information. Let me give you a little bit more. You may need this or something like that. Yeah, I've been sitting on it longer, so I'm way more familiar than she is. And so the stories that continued was actually them correcting, right? So like course correcting our project together. They were going to go and let everybody know the pieces that they felt they should have known in the setting of that group presentation. By the time the story reached me, I can tell you it had completely changed. Grew legs, walked away. People questioned if I was difficult to work with, if I wasn't knowledgeable on the projects that I've been working on, if I was a good representation of the group. Again, I'm presenting outside of this area, this work. Okay. But here's the kicker. I didn't hear about any of that concern until probably about 4 months later in my annual review. Yes, which was also the first time that my leader heard about it. So that's not a good place, if we're being honest, for people to start catching up on your work quality, on your personality, on the way that you came across, especially not to partners. So now what happens in that same very meeting with me and my boss, I had to again course correct. So now it's a course correction of the course correction. This is crazy and out of control for no good reason. So I hope that you can relate as I play it back, because we ourselves may have done this to somebody once or twice in our life too. But let me just finish. The course correction is now me trying to prove my knowledge, right? To change the perception, that's the word on the street, the story that got legs, And then undo what was going now on for more than 4 months. That's crazy. So honestly, I still don't know how many people really heard the story from that leg, because again, once I tell you, you tell somebody else, right? Like that's how stories work, especially if they're good. So that's an exact example of why it's the most disturbing form of communication that there is, right? It's tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And before you know it, you're playing the game of telephone and you didn't even know it, right? That's not what you intended. It doesn't protect anyone, and it spreads confusion and really damages trust. So it makes real problem solving almost impossible, if we're being honest. So let me ask, have you ever heard a story about someone else before you actually even met that person? Of course. And if you said no, you really got to think about this. When you're bringing a new friend into the friendship, when your daughter's dating a new boyfriend, right? Like you hear stories about the person before you actually meet. That's super normal. So I hope you said yes. The question is, did you pause and get curious about the things that you were hearing, or did your perception automatically become the truth based on the source that you were hearing it from? So the chance is, if the person who is telling you the tea is someone that you can trust, there's a really high chance that you actually believe what was being said. Okay. Courageous conversations are not about being fearless, okay? It's about addressing the truth, bringing it to the source so that that person has the opportunity to be thankful for getting the knowledge and then truly come back to you in a way that either explains it on their side or explains it on your side and really seals the deal that that person is a. And this applies whether you're a leader at work, whether you're the head of household. Yes, that counts too. It's tax time. Whether you're the coach at the school or even just a good friend. Your job is not to be liked in the moment. Somebody has asked you, or somebody needs direct information, feedback that you are probably the only one who can give them. And you need to decide if that's something that you're willing to help with in that moment. So your task at that time is to create clarity. And that means that, yes, you do have to balance empathy. I'm not just telling you to turn around and say, everything you just said was so stupid. Speak the truth, but yes, with a backbone. Based on what I just saw, I think there's some opportunity there for you to also add this or do this or say this. Again, if it's coming from a good place, usually that person will not become defensive. If you start the conversation by going, that was horrible, then yeah, you're probably going to get some defense. Communication is super important, guys, and how we choose to communicate to who, about what, in our circles, again, in life, really is a judge of our own character. So if you have difficulty communicating with other people, if you have difficulty pointing things out that you think will help them, and again, it doesn't have to be in a group setting, it can be in a one-on-one conversation, and that's where it should start. That's really a reflection of you, something that you probably need to work on. Just saying, because that's what we do here on HH. So even when it's uncomfortable, it's important. And that's a responsibility that you have in that moment. So you can choose to do or not do. But again, your choice. So let's do a quick pulse check, see where we are in the communication conversation. Have you ever avoided giving feedback because you didn't feel that somebody would receive it well? You didn't want them maybe to feel bad. Have you ever personally tried to avoid getting feedback because you didn't want to feel bad? Maybe it triggers like panic or shame. Have you ever talked about an issue that you saw with someone else, like a third party, versus the actual person who would benefit and who could actually fix what you saw or even explain why they did it? So if you said no to any of those, you're lying. I mean, come on, we're human. Some of those were like trick questions, to say the least. Of course, we've done that. That's who we are. Okay. But again, it can't fester there. If you're truly wanting to help someone, then really give the help. Okay. But I tell you what, you probably also have a good example of when you didn't do that, when you didn't confront the person who you knew had the behavior that was questionable, and you've seen it fester into something way bigger than it needed to be. And if you would have just corrected it in that moment, or told somebody who would have at least told them directly without telling five more people between, you probably would have chose that now. So in hindsight, of course, everything looks easier. Okay. But again, we're human and we make choices. If the culture allows for people to avoid having hard conversations, and that could be anywhere, just think about that. Definitely at work. If there is no true safe space where I share something or I do something that really needs help and you don't feel comfortable in giving it to me, and the environment that we're in allows for that to happen, just let them go. It's fine. All of that, right? It's better than having an argument. It's better than having confrontation. The feedback doesn't disappear. It just moves quietly from one person to the next. Because again, it didn't sit well with you. So you are going to share that with somebody that you're closer to. And they're going to share it with someone else that they're closer to. So you are definitely part of the problem in those areas where culture has caused it to live. You cause it to grow and spread. Kudos. Good job. It takes the courage to say that we need things to be different, right? Even when it may sting a little bit, because that's really what you're trying to avoid. So, yes, everything that I said is about actually being able to give feedback. But let me be very clear, receiving feedback is not easy either. All right. It definitely takes self awareness, it takes reflection, and definitely confidence to hear the truth and not shut down. So, giving feedback is brave, but receiving feedback, also brave. Okay. And when we do it with care, when we do it with honesty, and when we do it with good intention, we create a space where growth and understanding and connection happen, right? That's an environment of trust. And that's the ultimate goal to every relationship that we're in. That's the helper's high that we're chasing. Together, we make magic.